Welcome. Here we have a vegetable garden in Oceanport, New Jersey.
The lettuce grew like crazy.
In this bed we have an abundance of short nightshades such as eggplant, peppers, and okra, which grows really well with peppers. It's not a nightshade though. And in between we have seeded lettuce, as you can see here in between the eggplants that will be harvested out by the time they get really huge. And we've also seeded marigolds as
Oh my God, what do you have here? Show me. And I started to show him and he was like, oh, we have to do it.
This Three Sisters patch is doing phenomenal. As you can see, the squash has gotten huge and the beans are growing up the fence. They're actually outgrowing the fence now. They're climbing all over each other. And it's getting pretty wild over here. And we have some corn poking through as well. So that's going to make it. That's going to get really, really tall. And the nasturtiums over here have already started flowering. Now this beautiful flower you can just snip off and it's a peppery little accent to your salad. It's delicious.
I heard you have a garden. I said, yeah, I do. So like, you know, the wall spreads.
Started producing zucchinis. Tons and tons of zucchinis that are in this brush right here. And actually they should be harvested soon because the more you keep harvesting zucchinis, the more they will grow. Here's more nasturtium and beans towering above it, and we have some beans interspersed with sunflowers here, all very ornamental arrangements. Continue until the end where we finally have a little patch of cucumbers. A tomato cage works really well for cucumbers as well. They can just grow up it on their own. They're not lazy vines like the tomatoes are. Sometimes they need a little help, but for the most part, cucumbers, they send off these little tendrils that grab onto things. And the same with beans. As you can see here, this bean is doing the same thing, but the tomatoes, they're lazy vines. Even though they're vine, they don't grab onto things like the beans. As you can see, they're all falling all along each other. There's beans lost somewhere in there. Here's some Brussels sprouts. So I'm gonna spend some time taming this little garden. Here the broccoli is doing phenomenal with some arugula in front of it, and only some of the chamomile actually made it, but you know, there is chamomile, so something else will be planted in there. In between the broccoli we have a very beautiful, well-spaced row of beets. And we can even take some of the bottom broccoli leaves off to give them some sunlight. Here we have some beets, lettuce, Swiss chard, radishes, and nasturtium, all planted neatly in little rows. The oregano, the cucumbers are all doing phenomenal over here, especially the squash right here in the middle. And then as you see here, there's a bunch of onions on the edges that are acting as a pest repellent that are also doing really well, and the carrots are growing beautifully as well. Over here we have a bed of bush beans and carrots along the edge, and that right here is a grass actually. Now here we've got enough collard greens to last you all summer, growing all beautifully in this bed, and in between we have melons. And we also have some melons over here. Now the melons haven't really had a growth spurt yet because all we've been having is just a lot of rain. As you can see, it's a very, very gloomy day still here in Oceanport, New Jersey. So there hasn't really been that hot summer sun, that summer heat wave to really allow the melons to grow. You can see some of the beds are nice and orderly like this one. And over there with the broccoli and the beets, and this nightshade's bed is nice and orderly. But that back fence over there and the tomato row, it's going to need some shifting things around, some cutting things back, just to make sure that everything gets an appropriate amount of space. Now I'm actually cutting back this tomato rather vigorously. Simply because with tomatoes it's very important that you have good air circulation. So don't be shy, just cut off a lot of what's on the bottom and make sure that there's organized growth. So don't forget to pick off the suckers, because by doing this early, like when they're little young like this, just pinching them off, you can prevent a lot of what's going on here in this bed, which is just absolute tomato chaos right now. This is a tomato stem. It was lying on the ground like this, and tomatoes spring roots up from their stems, so there's actually roots. I'm finding beans that have taken a hold of the tomato leaf of the stems and are trying to use them as poles. So I'm trying to outweave the beans and manage them, make them grow nicely. It's always smart to give your beans something to climb on, like a teepee, a trellis, or a fence, like all of these examples right here. Fence, teepee, trellis. And look, I was cutting back this tomato and I discovered a little man's hole. So there's a giant tomato and marigold massacre here in this row, but I think it's actually for the better. Now the tomatoes have better air circulation, they're all propped up, they're all standing tall, and they've already got young fruit on them. Look how big this zucchini leaf got. This is my hand, a normal size human hand, and this is a purple zucchini leaf. It's huge.